Minnesota Vikings fans, welcome back to the Purple People Eaters podcast. He's Aaron, I'm Chris, and we're here to talk some Vikings football, some good old Vikings football. Hope everybody's being safe out there. This new variant is spreading like the dickens, to say something that would probably be said about 100 years ago. But anyway, the Vikings won a game in primetime on the road in Soldier Field. And yes, it was ugly. But how many games have we lost in an ugly fashion, especially in this rivalry of late and just overall? So yeah, was it a thing of beauty? No, it was an old school black and blue, put my thumb in your eye type game. But they did get the W. Definitely. Seemed like the offense was doing pretty well in the first half, then no go. The usual suspects were in play, even more with Hicks this time. He probably had his best game of all time against us. But luckily, the defense stood up. This was really a defense. Like I said, the offense did just enough, but the defense, man, holy, and DJ, wow. I mean, you can look at the three stats. We will talk about it, but the other stuff is that much more impressive in this. I'm just impressed. You know, a lot of people, say Zimmer can't coach anymore and all that. And sure, we've been critical of him as well, especially sometimes his influence on the offensive side of the ball. But for him to continue to get this kind of pressure without one of the best defensive ends, one of the best defensive players in the league, with Hunter out, that's saying a whole lot. So we're going to recap Monday night's game, talk it through a little bit. Obviously, now we're back to 500. We're in the 7th spot. That thing is just all fluctuated. But these last 3 games, whole lot of challenge, especially this one coming up. It's going to be a short turnaround for both teams. I mean, I guess the Rams did play last night, so they get a day less. But this is going to be a tough one. Yes, it's at home and all, but man, it's going to be tough. We're talking about all these guys that the Bears have on defense as far as the front 7. I know they had corners out. But man, they don't have a corner out in this one, or at least if Ramsey's in the game, they got corners. So it'll be interesting to see how they play defense against us. So yeah, we're going to dig into this stuff for just a moment. If this is your first time listening to this year Vikings podcast, welcome. It's available in a variety of ways. It streams live on blogtalkradio.com/Rope-A-Dope Radio. You don't have to go right to Blog Talk and Rope-A-Dope if that's not your thing. You can find the platform on Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Player FM, TuneIn, Amazon Music. I forgot to mention that. That's somewhat of a new thing just in general. We're also part of the Grueling Truth Sports Podcast Network. While you're at it, why don't you head on over to thegruelingtruth.com. And then, of course, on Spreaker, we do have a Spreaker page that Aaron set up. It's called Living in Loserville on Spreaker. So it's available there as well, along with some podcasts that Aaron does that you may enjoy. One more thing. If you're thinking about cutting the cord or you're not quite happy, I got something for you. It's called DirecTV Stream. The prices start as low as $69.99 a month. It's the best of live TV and on-demand. No annual contracts, no hidden fees. If you upgrade to the Choice or Ultimate package, that'll give you 3 free months of HBO Max, plus you get to enjoy regional sports networks with no additional fees, which you're seeing more and more. And if you go all the way to the Premier package, that'll give you HBO Max and Showtime already included. That's DirecTV Stream. Okay, let's go ahead and bring in my co-host, Aaron, and see how he's doing on this Wednesday night.
Doing great, Chris. Doing great. I thought that was a chippy game we saw, and that made it more entertaining to watch. I mean, I thought there's a little grit there showed by the Vikings, and they got pushed around, and I think I saw them push back. I know I saw Barr kind of toss some guys around, and they just didn't seem to back down this time, which was good. I mean, last game I thought at Soldier Field it took Delvin Cook to get up in Akeem Hicks's face, and nobody else really did. But this time around, I think they fought back. I thought it was a good performance for them, but it's still the same problems with the offensive line, although there were some changes, and I think they held up better than they have in the past, but there was no Khalil Mack, and, you did have the defensive end from the other side who's causing a little bit of trouble, but, we still got to shore that up, but nonetheless, a good win in Chicago.
Yeah, exactly, and that's probably not going to go anywhere. We have cut down on the sacks. Some of that was, just getting rid of the ball, short passing, which a lot of people love to complain about. And we, especially those back-to-back weeks we talked about, that's like, 6 weeks ago or whatever. We get that part, but sometimes you got a short pass. It was kind of funny. Zimmer was all of a sudden the aggressor. He kept saying, we got to be aggressive. And, for about a month there, we said, screw it, let's do it. It's harder to be aggressive without Thielen in there, especially in the red zone to an extent. But I noticed, him saying, well, we probably should have short passed a little bit on this one. We could have dinked and dumped. We said dinked and dumped, and you could just hear the media go, dink and dump. Fire him at once. Get the stakes out. Get the fight. It's just like, you do got to dink and dump at times. Otherwise, you're going to be the dump part. The quarterback's going to be dumped. And Cousins definitely was. But the good part about it is the pressure that we kept bringing too. To get that touchdown drive early, really, helped to get off the good schneid. Cook kind of got like 3 or 4 carries in a row. Jefferson had a nice little catch in a run, and then really nice route on that TD. Nice route, nice throw. Got it in. So, it's always good to get that early lead when you're playing, it seems like when you're playing the Bears on the road especially, but when the Vikings are playing the Bears, we should say, because it seems like the roles were reversed this year. We got the lead and just kind of sat on it. Then we kind of went pretty conservative down the stretch, which did make a lot of sense. But, the turnovers and the pressure, was such a key thing. And, to create that turnover and get up 10-zip off of it, we had a decent little drive. Of course, it was spoiled, the drive as far as the touchdown drive by our guy Hicks. And I just wrote Jesus Christ on one of the notes here on the sack. It was like, oh my God, that was nasty. And it did help that they employed, I think Quinn actually got a sack on that drive too. But If you're looking at 10-0, it's like, okay, dude, we're looking pretty good. Another fumble, weren't able to capitalize on it. And then they had a long drive, 12 plays, 49 yards, almost 6 plays, but we did stop them for a field goal. And that was one of the telling stories defensively, was the red zone and just, goal to goal. That stat that came up, I didn't even know that. I knew we weren't good in goal to goal, what do they call it, but I didn't realize it was that bad. But man, the red zone defense saved the game in many ways.
Well, that's kind of what's needed to return, since maybe, the disastrous season defensively that was last year was that Zimmer's defenses have always been, 20-20. They're, they'll give you some stuff, but when you get in the red zone, they've always been really good. I remember there's numerous goal line stands. They took a lot of pride in it. And for the last 2 seasons, it just hasn't quite been there. And I'm not saying it's back to that degree, but it's more characteristic of what you're going to see from a Zimmer defense, or what you're used to seeing from it anyway. And it's just been, a thing this year where it's like, okay, well, you can't really say this is an old Zimmer defense, and you can't really say, this is some sort of new thing, because it's, you're missing some guys, particularly Hunter. You are creating pressure. I thought that was really impressive. We're like 3 weeks into now, maybe even more, of this kind of like new defensive line rotation. And we're seeing guys like Jones, Wonnum, Pierce is back. You got Tomlinson, Hicks, even Lynch, guys that are coming in. I mean, that's a lot of names I just named there, and I think I'm missing a couple guys in that rotation, and it's starting to pay off. Now, I know the Bears line isn't, world beaters, but just to get pressure again is something that, you need to see. And You just haven't seen it this season. And back to the red zone stuff. I mean, that's what you want to see out of what Mike Zimmer's defense has to offer. And I think this is a pretty good example of it. What was it, Monday night in Chicago?
It really was, right? Third down and red zone. That's kind of like in pressure, in blitzes, right? But which is pressure, right? So that's kind of Zimmer right there in a nutshell. The interception, I don't know. I'm kind of in between on it because I get that the ref isn't. I don't know. It's like on one hand you look and you go, what the hell? Don't you see this? Like, he had him beat. That's why the dude grabbed Jeff. It was going to be one-on-one with a safety in Jefferson. But I did actually see Thielen today go, when it's like that away from where the ball's getting thrown, they're not looking at that. And so he kind of talked me off the ledge there a little bit. But that was about, you can't take down much more than that. I thought he fell right away. But once you see the replay, and maybe that's what I thought he fell just because he was on the ground. It's not that I saw him fall, so the ref couldn't have seen him fall either. But that takedown, he had him beat so hard. The corner was like, I'm good, dude. We're gonna do this because it's gonna be safety in Jefferson, and he'll come down with it and probably score somehow because it'll just be a safety in him. So, but that did suck. But you know what? Missed field goal. You know what I mean? They did get the missed field goal at least, and that's where the roles were reversed this year because that's something even off a turnover we would have done.
Yeah, Cairo Santos. But I think it was blocked a little bit. Didn't Tomlinson get a hand on it?
I think so. They said not, but I thought, was it really that bad? I don't think so. I think you're right.
I think he got like a thumb and a forefinger on it, but enough. But yeah, so when I saw that, I'm watching it and I'm just going, oh God, because it's one of those balls. Kirk's under pressure and not intense, but good enough pressure. He throws it up, and I just, as you traveled with the ball down the field, you're like, there's nobody there. And I'm like,
looks like a punt.
I'm cursing Kirk. I'm just like, what the hell was that and all that.
Right.
And about 30 seconds later, they're like, oh, okay. And they show you the Jefferson. And yeah, you're right. They don't, but there's a lot of officials there. So I'm not saying,
right.
There's a lot of.
You should be looking at Jefferson. He's a good player. They
were all not looking at it. I don't know. I thought that game, as far as officiating went, that game was not well officiated. And for both teams, just some missed calls and then some calls that should have been called that weren't. I'm thinking of one in particular. Oh, Kirk got his head rocked a few times, and it was just all over the place. But yeah, I don't know did they score on that interception, Chris, but I thought, I felt immediately after the replay, I was like, okay, well, I give Kirk, credit on that one. I think he saw what you saw, that, Jefferson had him, and he just going to throw it up, give Jefferson a chance to make a play. Now, looking at the ball, I don't think he threw it far enough. Let's say Jefferson had,
I think he was going to go short of that safety,
Yeah, it's possible. Well, yeah, obviously, because the safety caught it. But, we caused turnovers, too. Barr got the nice swipe on Fields, and then, there's another one, too. Oh, Montgomery, Sheldon. That was another call, Chris, where they –
yes.
Where it's like you clearly fumbled the ball. They called it down, and I don't know if Zimmer had to I think he did have to challenge it. And then they found out that – and then, and Sheldon would have scored on that play, so – that's just one of those things. It's like you're always going to get something at Soldier Field. Let's just chalk it up to that. You're always going to get something, whether it's tall grass or whatever it is. There's always something in that game.
Yeah, that's for sure. In the second half, right away, DJ, another sack. Felt like Fields probably needed to throw the ball there. He was going to try to loop back like it was college. Like, dude, this isn't Doug Flutie here. And I'm like, this isn't Johnny Manziel. And then you could tell he straightened out after that when he ran. It was pretty funny. He's like, okay, I should have done that. But that's part of being a rookie, right? But then it was kind of like the back-to-back rookie runs, which I love to see, the rook getting in there. There was that illegal low blow chop call thing, which some people were like, I don't like it. Others were like, well, he did go for his knee. if you look at the rule of the play, it was a penalty. But I understand what some folks are saying in general. That is they're protecting linemen. But if I'm going to say, hey, we're protecting quarterbacks too much, I don't know. It is what it is. But and I think 2 more tackles for loss Hicks had on that drive. However, Smith-Morset, talk about a decoy. Jefferson, I mean, I think they had 13 guys on the field, and about 7 of them went to Jefferson on that play. Because Smith-Morset was just wide open in the end zone. It was a beautiful play and a great decoy in the red zone. And we've been struggling ever since Thielen's been out in the red zone, so that was nice to see too.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Jefferson can bring you is that decoy stuff, but you still got to pick up Marset. Someone's got to pick him up. I mean, I'm struggling to say this, but the secondaries obviously are going to change if you take Thielen out because that allows them to not double and triple all these other guys. And I guess that's what happened there. I mean, they figured, Smith-Marset's got 3 catches on the year, something like that, no touchdowns. And you would just assume that everything would go to Jefferson in that situation. And I guess it just slipped. And that's a great play call, by Kubiak. I don't know if he designed it that way or what. I didn't see any kind of screen or anything like that. It was just 3 guys bit and, Marset's all alone in the corner of the end zone. And, I just got to, you got to say that's a good call, whether it was meant to be that way or not. I mean, I don't think you can plan on 3 guys following Jefferson, but that's what happened. And great play, a timely touchdown.
And like you said, I mean, just to have them over by each other is what caused the play. You know what I mean? So you're good call on that. It was a good play call because it was like, all right, dude, you got 2 dudes here. You know who they're going to shine on. And then it was basically the turnover on downs show. It was the 3 and out getting just – I mean, there were a couple like 3rd and 9s where it's like, oh, we almost got the catch. Oh, we almost – but it was just like time to just beat up Cousins. But on the other side, the defense, the turnover on downs, when you look at it, to get that, I mean, you're talking 1, 2, 3 in a row drives ended in that. And it got a little shaky. We had that deflected kick, or the punt that is like, oh shit, here we go, dude. This game's not over. Hold on. This is getting a little funky here. But the defense, we talked about the red zone. Pat P making back-to-back plays in the end zone, knocking the ball down. Like I said, it was just so key. And that stat they brought up that I guess if you would have asked us, we would have been probably like, oh, probably only 1 or 2 times. But it was the first stop, and then we had 3 more, the first stop in a goal-to-go situation of the year. So once you get first and goal on us, it's a wrap, dude. You might they're gonna score, and that's kind of telling, like what you said. Like we're starting to get it back now that we're getting bodies back. Because remember the week before we were 0 of 8 on those go-ahead tie drives in the last 2 minutes for defense, and they stuffed them. Now sure it went all the way to the end zone and all that. We can talk about that like a Viking fan would on Twitter or Facebook, but at the same time. That's how it goes. It's it's a very tight thing. You're either going to be on one side or not. And so for that to happen back-to-back weeks, it's like, God, if we could have gotten these guys back a month ago, 6 weeks ago.
Well, I also think that's where the chippiness comes in. I think the Bears hit them just hard enough to wake them up. I think this defense has sort of been. I'm not saying they're out there, taking plays off or anything like that, but I think they got hit in the mouth, and I think they responded, and that's something that and I think that's that play you mentioned earlier about the goal to go. They started fighting back, and that's when you're like, okay, this is what it's going to be now. And I think this lackadaisical approach of every time they're in the red zone or you're first and goal that they've been giving it up all year, and maybe that some of that was set out there, and just getting hit enough to where you're like, F these dudes. And I think that's kind of what happened. Defense turned around, started getting pressures, started pushing back, started throwing guys around. I mean, that's kind of the toughness and the edge that I think all of us have been kind of waiting to see this team respond in some way. And I think that's two good examples, Chris, of the turnover on the downs and then the goal line stuff. That's all about toughness. And I think they finally stood up to it. And I just hope it continues. I hope it's not only the Bears that brings this out in them.
Yeah, right. No kidding. And that would be built up tension over the last few years too with this team. So you're right. That's a good call. Hopefully it's not just that game. DJ Wonnum though, dude. I mean, it's one thing. I mean, look at the career highs. The sacks, 3 sacks. That's phenomenal. He had 8 tackles, forced a fumble, and had a career high 9 pressures. And he was that play where you usually see this called, but when it's a running quarterback, you get away with a little bit more. He did push him when he was in bounds, but that doesn't stop, the refs from throwing flags. But he was able to track down a very speedy and crafty runner in Fields a couple times, and it's just really nice to see Wonnum coming all the way into his prime now. I mean, this guy's starting to. Chris Boyd was another guy. Cam was another guy. Dantzler. We're starting to see that. And then I mentioned, Pat P with those back-to-back plays. He's just been steady all year. I know people want him to get like 8 interceptions this year, so I don't know. But they're not really targeting him much, you know what I mean? So how do you get picks if they don't throw it to you much? I think he's been real steady. And his cousin, McFadden, said, hey, man, if they want to keep him here, he wants to stay here. And it's like, yeah, I'll take a couple years. I'll take a couple years of him left in the twilight of his career. I wouldn't call it the twilight like he's faded and stuff like that, drastically. He's still a really solid corner. So, is he what he was, a handful of years ago? No, but he, I like it. I like what I see out of there. And that's what it was. Turnover on downs, turnover on downs, turnover on downs. And the defense, straightened it out, man. It was fun. Grinded out game. A lot of people were complaining about the game while it's going on, and this is ugly. But, how many times have we outgained, teams,
Yeah.
Oh, we outgained them. Look at all this. We got this, we got that. I mean, even the third down, that pretty much shut down in the second half, it's 17 attempts on third down. That's a lot of third downs. And if we would have just got to like 7, maybe even 8, if you're over 40%, you're good. It was only 5, and that's probably what kept it going longer. They got that ugly, which probably shouldn't have counted on the time clock, but we won't get into that ugly, stuff late. And we were that close to having a couple more first downs. But yeah, I mean, they had, almost 100 yards of penalties. And overall, yeah, we usually lose that game, I guess is the moral of the story.
Yeah, well, don't get me started on the NFL rule book here, but let's talk a little bit about, was the Kendricks play, was that a crafty move by Fields? Which I think it's probably less of that, because what do you want Kendricks to do with here? It's like, it's one of those calls, Zimmer talks about, like, they're really hamstringing my defense. Well, to a point, I can see that. I mean, you're pursuing the ball. You got a quick runner like that who can contort his body and in a second, start the slide. And if you look at it, it's bang, bang in real time. And it's like, I think it's from the point of Kendricks getting ready for the tackle and him going into the slide is milliseconds. And it just so happens to graze his head. And not only do you get the penalty for that, but you eject Kendricks for that. I don't know what to think of it. My opinion on it is that it's a little bit of both. Like, could Kendricks have pulled up? Yeah, but then he chances, missing a tackle. And, could Fields have eased into his slide a little bit more? Yeah, probably. But I think it was a little gamesmanship on Fields. I can't really prove it, but I feel like he kind of knew what he was doing. I won't call it a flop in a sense, like an NBA flop, but I think it was an opportunity that he saw and took.
I think that's a good way to do it. It definitely wasn't NBA or, football, right? Soccer, the flops, nothing like that. But I saw someone talking about it today, and they made a point that when he slides, he does stay pretty, straight up. Like his dad must have been like, keep your back straight, when he was sitting on the kitchen table or something. Because I did notice, like, hey, dude, you're going to get hurt if you do that. Maybe not this time, but you're going to get hurt. But at the same time, it is drawing a penalty. And like you said, at the contact, he did kind of be like, oh, that was contact, So I thought it was usually a quarterback will kind of lean back a little bit more. Like I thought you described it really well. Penalty, yeah, sure, got it. But don't kick him out of the game. I think that's where it's a little over the top. And now, does it get reviewed this week? And do we have Kendricks for the first half? We haven't had, somebody kicked out of a game since Harrison. I think 2 years ago, maybe last year. I don't remember. But I know in college, it's just like that happens a little bit more in college. That's for sure. And then you miss the next game in the first half if you get ejected. So I'm like, I can't – it's like I'm losing sight of that rule for the NFL. Does he miss the first half, or am I just tripping?
I don't know if that's the case. I just know that, if that is the case, that's terrible. We need Kendricks, obviously, particularly in this next one. And even we could have used him in the second half. I mean, I don't think he played his best game. He's getting pushed around a little bit and a lot of runs coming up his thing. And it's, but 9 out of 10 games, Kendricks is going to probably be your best defender. And so it was, it's one of those things where you're going to have to deal with the rules. I'm not talking about the rules about whether he, gets to play the first half. I don't know that. We'll look it up later if you guys want to look it up, out there, look it up. But, it's one of those things where you're going to have to come. What's the line, Chris, between the penalty and the ejection? Is there malice involved? Is there, taunting? Is there, some sort of roughness involved in it? Because if that's the case, there's no way that you should eject Kendricks for that. That was just a bang football play. Unfortunately, the heads touched. I don't think there was even much contact as far as like actual collision wise. It just seemed to be incidental to me. And then to make the call to go to the ejection to me is just a step too far. Particularly for looking at that play, that should probably be reviewed on the field. And then, okay, yeah, he, threw an elbow. Okay, cool. He's out for the game. But, if you just look at that play, it's just nothing but incidental contact. And I just couldn't believe that they ejected him for that. And we'll take a look, maybe get back to you on the rules with that. But it just seems like there should be a line between, intent and actually what happened.
Yeah, I'm getting hit with all these rule books, and it's like I'm not trying to find the whole rule book, dude. I just need to know this part. And I haven't heard a lot of people say that, but there's no way that should be targeting. I mean, ejection. Sure, contact, we got you. But yeah, the ejection was ridiculous. So I'm pretty sure midweek they could say, hey, he shouldn't have been ejected, yada yada yada. But I'm getting a little echo. I can't find it just yet as far as next week.
Moving on to while you look that up, I thought, and it definitely wasn't Cook's best game of the year, but I thought it was my favorite game of Cook's for the year. Hard yards.
That's a good
He
point.
ran hard. He almost broke one. He got tripped up. But he ran tough. And, it was a lot of 1 yard loss, 5 yard gain, 3 yard gain, 2 yard loss, that kind of thing. But I think he ran tough through the whole thing. And it was nice to see, like you said, Wonnum. He showed a little bit of something up the middle there. Not only just speed, but vision, evading tackles and all that stuff. So I thought, with Madison out, Wonnum impressed me as a second back there. Now, would you rather have Madison? I don't know. Probably. But I thought that was impressive. And I thought Cook was impressive in this game. I thought he, ran tough when he knew what was going to happen. He knew he was going to get stuffed a lot. He knew that he was going to have to deal with Hicks's mouth. He knew he was going to have to deal with linebackers that want to take his legs away from him. So I thought this was my favorite Cook performance of the season so far.
Yeah, that's a good call. It was, you got a 4 a carry. So 30, like overall as a team, 33 carries, 132, 4 a clip. That's pretty good. That'll work. Like you said, just grind it out. We still targeted Jefferson 10 separate times. Maybe one was a punt or whatever, but still it was, we were, I liked it. It was just enough. You're not going to get, the 180 every week or anything like that. So I agree. It was rough going, and he kept grinding it out. And, he also didn't, miss a bunch of plays or anything either in this type of rough game. I think one of the key differences, both quarterbacks were just getting blitzkrieged. The difference is where our guys in the middle will push guys back. They don't necessarily get to the quarterback. That was the difference. Cousins was seeing it from the middle, getting to you, and from the edges, especially Quinn coming off that edge. That Hicks play, though, and here's the thing, Aaron. Okay, cool. You called the Kendricks thing. Cool. Okay, that is what it is. It's the NFL. We get it. But then you turn around, and Hicks is like his whole body. He kind of clotheslines Cousins in the head and literally puts – we're not supposed to do this, right? Because Barr put his weight on poor Aaron Rodgers' COVID foot on his shoulder. And, that's a rule. They call it all the time. And I don't know – did they miss this one too? They didn't see that. They were looking at Jefferson on this play. Maybe that's what it was. They were looking at Jefferson. But, dude, it's like how you put your whole – that dude's 350 or something. I mean – and, I was like, oh, dude, because, we talked about this before we got on air. And Kirk, once or twice a game, will get up and you'll be like, yeah, that one got him, dude. You can see it in his face. Because he's usually pretty much the same dude the whole game, like it or not. And you could tell he was slow going. And sure enough, the first time in his career, he is on the I fucked up my rib a little bit list. So he finally is on that damn list, and it had to have been that hit, dude. Because that was like, really, dude? You're not going to call that?
Yeah, not only that, but it was the dance after, and then all game he was getting elbows to the head, he was getting grazes to the head, he was getting, there's just all kinds of crap going on with Hicks and the guys on the inside. They're just, you said both quarterbacks kind of under pressure all night, and I thought, for a veteran, Kirk kind of did what a veteran has to do and deal with the pressure. But you're right. I mean, that particular sack was just like, okay, so you're not allowed to do that except for this time you can do it. And 340, I think they said it on the broadcast, 346 is what Hicks is weighing in at now, dude. I mean, that's a lot of weight. That's not Anthony Barr. That's like 2 Anthony Barrs,
Right.
So it's like, well, what are you going to call for that? And, just you see little things like face masks that weren't being called and elbows and all that stuff. So maybe the refs were like, just let them play. This is going to be nasty, or maybe it's too cold. I don't want to see this stuff. But like you said, I thought it was funny. Maybe they were looking at Jefferson, when they should have been looking somewhere else. And then when it was time to look at Jefferson, they're looking somewhere else. So I really can't explain the officiating except for I think all around media and everything kind of realized that was a horribly officiated game. And, I guess you could say it worked in our favor because we managed to win that game. But, yeah, I mean, just even things on special teams, Chris, a lot was missed, but then a lot, there weren't a lot of those normal penalties like false starts, holding calls and stuff, but just strange, like,
Well, Udo didn't play, so that's why there wasn't the holding calls.
Yeah. And they kept,
right.
like you said, they kept Bradbury away from Hicks, which was hilarious and also interesting.
I mean, we were just talking about this as well. Like, how many times you seen a setter not have to be the main guy on the big boy in the middle? I mean, it seems like he'd be in there someplace. And I'm not saying there was never a case where they came in contact, but they were like, hey, Cole, you're going to take this one on the chin today, and you're just going to have to deal with it. And I remember, I think it was either Barrera or some show. It was actually fill-in guest because it's, Christmas week. But some dude said, man, if we had Udo, why didn't they start Udo? They said. And he gave all these stats that he hasn't given up a sack in so long or whatever. It's like, dude, when you have 12 holding penalties, he does realize those are 15-yard penalties.
And how did Udo become the new Wyatt Davis? Because Wyatt Davis is supposed to be the savior at right guard the whole season. We got to see more Wyatt Davis.
Meanwhile, he's been hurt the whole season, too. It's like, do you guys read the injury report? This ankle's been fucked up the whole year, basically. Like, it's a good call. That is. I've been hearing, put it in. Ohio State. Dude, he can't play right now, man. Like, so you want to play him on a bum ankle right now against Hicks. Like, that's just funny. Any other items, though? Go ahead.
No, I mean, I just think it's this. If this offensive line, I always hear. I was going to bring this up earlier, talking about the defense, and I thought it was funny when we were talking about the defensive line that, we draft traits. We don't really look at the player. We know what kind of bodies we like, and all that stuff. And talk about Wonnum, and he kind of fits that mold. And then you're still looking at 2 free agent signings in the middle because you're drafting traits, and same with the offensive line. Maybe stop with the traits thing and just kind of go with production or find a way to draft some guys. I mean, Cole held up decently against Hicks, but Bradbury was just hating life going into this one and probably went to the office and like, guys, I don't want to see him again. That guy scares me. So I just don't know how they're going to configure it because we got to see him again in 3 weeks?
Mm-hmm. Sure do. And he loves the last game of the year too. Oh my God, he'll pick up the ball and run it for a touchdown. And yeah, dude. I swear, there's something. Let's check his salary cap number because Bradbury may have worked a deal with them and say, hey, I'll gladly take some money off my cap if I could just not be one-on-one with this guy.
And now welcome Aaron Donald.
I was just
whole different problem.
Yeah, in the layers. And by the way, they do have this cornerback. I don't know if you've heard of him. We could have traded for him a couple years. I suppose half the league could have traded.
Yeah, it's on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah, it's like, man, I know he went to FSU. Mr. Ramsey, Aaron Donald, Von Miller, Leonard Floyd. Like, it's going to get nasty. And here's the scary part, okay? Here's the scary part. If we don't have Thielen, they're not going to have to bracket shit. No offense, I love me some Jefferson, but they're not going to have to help out Ramsey all game and put 3 dudes on him. And you think they're going to play a bunch of deep stuff the whole time? I don't think. Well, maybe they'll play 2 or 1 deep or whatever. They probably will take away the big plays or whatever, maybe because they got such a good front part of their defense where they'll be like, yeah, let's protect the back too. But as far as doubling and tripling, I don't see a triple team with Ramsey on the field on Jefferson if there's no Thielen. And did you see that little clip of him warming up before? He definitely can't explode on this. He said, I can't explode off of it. He said he was close, but he just couldn't explode. And he also went to mention today, he was talking about, well, it'd be nice to do it in a practice so I know, but we'll see. But he definitely was not full strength I saw like 2 routes and I was like, oh yeah, he's not ready just yet. And that's Monday. So, we already needed Thielen, but with Ramsey, Donald, Biller, the list goes on. It's going to be rough, man. It's going to be rough. And I'm wondering, the Thielen thing is so key this week.
Yeah, I think what you're going to have to do is get creative. Not only if you keep Jefferson on the outside, you're going to see a lot of press coverage, and you're probably going to see it from Ramsey. And Justin's okay with it, but it will definitely slow him down a bit. And so I think we're going to move him around a lot. Get him in the slot, get him on the other side, get him in motion a lot, get him away from Ramsey if you can. I don't think the Rams will just say, hey, that's your guy, go get him. But they might. Sure. And if they don't do that, then you're going to have to get creative with where you move him and decoys and, pick plays and things like that to get him open. And also you use him as a decoy, like we said earlier. I mean, you've got, Osborne, Smith-Marset, I think Didi's probably still under the COVID thing. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he'll come off.
But you're going to have to do some creative things just to get him open. And that's not even to mention if Kirk's going to have time to throw the damn ball. We're going to learn a lot about what a check down is, I think, in this game if we can't find a way to protect him from this. Now, a lot of times we kind of, Chicken Little, the sky is falling on this offensive line, and they end up playing pretty well. Let's hope that's the case. But Aaron Donald is not something to play with. And I just don't see Cleveland being able to fight him. I don't see Bradbury or Cole. I mean, I guess maybe out of those three, Cole's your best bet unless you're going to cry for Oli Udoh again this week.
Just got to go to Wyatt, dude. Listen to his first name. It's like the Old West. Wyatt, dude. He's a gunslinger, except he's on the offensive line. But anyway, I noticed that in their games, because they don't protect that well either. They get into that mass protection type stuff, and that'll be interesting to see how that plays out too, because we are going to be able to get pressure on them too. Stanford at times when they've struggled, a handful of games ago when they struggled. I remember that Niners game. He was all over the place in that game, and there's no way he's going to do that. A pick six, then another pick, then a pick in a row. They got way down. And then once you're down 20 with a 3 or something on the Niners, you might as well just freaking get on the plane at half because they're going to grind you down. But, I noticed that mass protection. I wonder how that's going to work. We send these blitzes, they pick it up, and all of a sudden, and it's funny because cornerback-wise, I mean, they got this guy Coop, and they got a variety of other guys that can make big, big plays. We haven't mentioned it, but Breland, we didn't have a drop-off last week. Now, it's kind of silly to even talk about that because, we're playing an offense that doesn't really throw the ball that well right now. Whereas that's not the case here. They can sling it around the yard. So, the key blitzes at the right time, and maybe we will see 7 in coverage, 8 in coverage at times if they all of a sudden mass protect. All right, then, well, they're going to want to throw something short to Coop or whatever. It's just going into this game, they got a better offense, they got a better defense. They don't run the ball that well, but when you're throwing for 300 yards a game, that's probably have something to do with it. And they stopped the run. They're right at 99, and anything under 100 in the NFL is pretty damn good. Now, they do give up a lot of yards through the air. And whether that's having a lead and then those stats are created more off of that, and so people are coming back and putting up, meaningless stats at the end. I'm sure that plays into, because I'm looking at 259. It's not horrible, but it's not necessarily what you say is a stout defense or whatever. But I think it's just going to be, it's at home, and that's great. I mean, the last time we played one of the best defenses, we put up 34 points on Green Bay. But they didn't have Ramsey. They don't have a Ramsey on that team. Alexander's good. They got some good corners, don't get me wrong. Clark's good, but he's not Donald. You know what I mean? So I don't see us like we did against Green Bay all of a sudden, all right, dude, we're going to put up 30 on these guys. Now, we've been kind of, we're due for a breakout. But, man, the first couple of drives, we're going to have to establish, who cares if it's 8 plays or 2 plays, but we're going to have to get some points on the board in the first half. Otherwise, this could be one of those games where we actually get our ass kicked.
I agree with you. And, speaking of Cooper Kupp, let's look back a little bit a few weeks and remember Cooper Rush and the Dallas Cowboys. They came in and did a lot of that max protect stuff and kind of threw us for a loop there. Like 2 linemen in the backfield, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm sure, McVay watches everything, so I'm sure he's seen some of that and the success they had there. I thought we adjusted well to it in the Dallas game, so I don't know if we'll see too much of it there. But like you said, we're down to Cam Dantzler and Patrick Peterson as our corners, and I think our safeties are pretty well intact. As knock on wood for the old variant, but Yeah, it's one of these games, Chris, where you're right. It could be a bloodbath and quick. But if we can establish the run, I know that's every Viking fan's worst phrase at this point, but if we can establish the run and, keep the game like a PJ Fleck game and just, shorten it, keep it sweet, hopefully run the ball well and, be good on third downs. But, you're right. We don't see Ramsey often. We're down receiver. Hopefully Thielen can get back, but we don't know that that's the case. And, do you trust Kubiak to come with a game plan that can not only deal with the pressure, but also deal with, being down a few guys that you need? You're going to have to get creative, and that's just not something that the Vikings offense is at the moment. And besides a play in the end zone to Amir Smith-Marset, I haven't seen much for, amazing play calls and play design here. It's pretty much Kubiak's system, or bust. So, go to the tight end, try to get the backs out, maybe get Wonnum involved a little bit. But I don't think we survive this one. There is a chance, Chris, because, strange things happen in the league, but
we play the levels. If we play a shitty team, we're going to play shitty. If we play a great team, hey man, we're a conference final team. Just look. Oh, the fourth quarter, forget it.
Yeah, defensively, I think we could probably do all right if we can get some pressure. But it's hard to say that's going to translate from the Bears to the Rams. So, yeah, I'm not thinking it's a blowout, Chris, but my logic is telling me that we lose this game something like 32-24. I think we'll score some points. I just don't know if they'll be meaningful points, We go down 17 and then start clawing our way back and end up with 24 points. I mean, that's possible. But, yeah, I just don't see us winning this one. I'd say something like, 28, 21, 34, 24, something like that. Rams win this one, and we're back under 500 once again.
And ever since we were 1-3, and it's been 2-2. We've kind of documented that. 2 wins, 2 losses. 2 wins, 2 losses. And sure enough, we won the last 2. But yeah, my score that I wrote down before the show, 28-20. So when you said 28-21, I was like, there it is. That's my score right there, basically. 28-20. I would probably say like maybe 28-27 or maybe, I don't know, if Thielen had just played or something and looked pretty good, I don't know, maybe I would go out on the limb and say we're finally going to put it all together and win 3 in a row against a good team, because we've beaten, the Chargers on the road were good at the time. We beat Green Bay. Even it seems like a long time ago, but Carolina was a winning team at the time. We were underdog, and so we've shown that we can do it. But I just, without feeling, the protection is going to be crazy. Obviously the screen game, that's the one thing that's not Kubiak right now. But I don't really think it has to do with them not trying to, it's not in the books right now against some of these teams. It's just not there. And we've done enough behind the line of scrimmage. Hey, is number 30 open, Ham? We've done that, and it just, use Ham once or twice a game, and one of them will spring for 13 yards, and that's usually what it should be, and that's it. So it's not. We've tried this screen game, and it just hasn't worked that great this year at all. And I'd say that's probably the biggest disappointment of the offense this year is the screen game, because that's kind of what the screen, this offense helps too. It's the play action and all that. I'll say this: we have the first 6 weeks we barely used play action, but we have gotten back to that. But I'm just not sold, an overly aggressive defense. Well, how do you do it? We all know you screen game, right? You get them going this way. Hey, Bradbury's going that way. Pummel him. Okay, cool. There's a 17-yard gain, but it just hasn't worked. So I just don't have the confidence in it, to pick. Oh yeah, dude, we're gonna get the screen game going.
Yeah, it's execution. I mean, what was that play? I don't remember which team it was, but I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago where we had a beautiful screen set up and the damn linebacker cuts through 3 linemen and still makes the tackle. Now, granted, it was 20 yards downfield, but it could have been a touchdown. Should have been a touchdown. Right. Yep. And I think it's execution. I just don't think this line can perform it. And that's the problem here. It's not that it can't be called and it's not a good call, like you said. It's that it's just not. The timing's off. Everything's off. And when you keep shuffling linemen, things like that's where you lose that kind of, I guess, coordination in that game. But yeah, it's got to be there, and I think you got to at least try a few things. And I don't want to see any more Conklin screens. I don't want to see any more, Ham screens. Give
at
it
least
to Cook.
6 to 8 targets to Ham, at least, right?
Conklin and Cook. That's our offense. Yeah, I mean, you're going to get checkdowns for sure, and it's good that Ham can do something with them. But yeah, I want to see Cook in space, and that's if you're going to screen it, it's only really worth it. Maybe a bubble to Jefferson from time to time, or something to give Wonnum a chance and see if he can come up with some. But Cook in space is deadly, and that's what you want out of your screen game. And you're right, they've got to get it right somehow execution-wise to be able to use it, because this is the perfect game for that. I'm glad you brought that up.
That's such a great example, dude. When you have 3 offensive linemen running down the field and Cook behind them, that's a touchdown, dude. Like, that's a touchdown. I don't care who, what, where. That's a touchdown. And it didn't result in that. I'm glad you brought that up. The only thing that we've given, like as far as creativity, I do like the creativity they've done with Jefferson. But that's Jefferson, because Jefferson can run every route. So you can't, like if a wide receiver can run every route, then you can't really be like, oh yeah, the coach, man, he's really smart. No, the dude can just run every route. So I like that. But yeah, we'll see, man. We'll definitely see here. Any final words, sir?
No, not really. The Gophers play in the 29th?
Yeah, next Tuesday.
Yeah, next Tuesday. There's a lot going on there with guys that are getting invited to post-season games and stuff like that. And then there was, of course, the signing day, which I thought looked pretty good from what you can see. It's hard to tell with 18-year-olds, but, I thought positions were good. And again, you probably won't, the way the program is now, we'll probably see these guys 2-3 years from now unless they're outstanding athletes. So it's kind of taken some of the joy out of signing day, because you just know you're not going to see him for a while. You're just going to go, okay, yeah, we got that kid, and let's hope it works out. And that's a great place to be, I think, in college football, and it kind of shows where that program has gone, and it continues to get better. And, we did mention earlier that, this whole side of the Big Ten is improving. So you got to get better. You just can't stay where you are at this point. I mean, and even Nebraska's starting to have a little sunshine on it. So, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough in the next few years, and it'll be good to see, but it's not going to be easy in the Big Ten West.
It's the crack of sunshine for Nebraska. But West Virginia themselves, I don't think they've lost the game. I think I read it was 14-0 with their coach since he's been there when they have a 100-yard rusher. And in the first chunk of the season, their defense was pretty damn good, and then it got banged up. And it's pretty much all back to healthy now. So I think some of those, that'll be pretty key as far as, slowing down the run. And we do have everybody playing. Nobody's sitting out for and this isn't even a great bowl or anything, so that's pretty cool. It tells you the dedication and whatnot. Nobody's sitting. They're going to senior bowls and all that, but nobody's going to miss the game because they're holding out or anything like that. And I never sit there and fault players when they do that because I get it, especially for this level of bowl. It's different if it's a big bowl, but that's pretty telling too. Not one person is going to opt out of the game, which is pretty dumb. All right. Well,
I did see something else quickly. And I don't know if you saw it, Chris, but a note from Trey Potts.
Yeah.
And I think he's coming back.
Sealed up. Yep.
Yeah, he said he's going to make a full recovery, so that's good news, and another back. And he was having a hell of a season before he got hurt too. So now you got Mo coming back and Potts coming back. Not to mention the 2 young kids that are pretty damn good. So that backfield is just stacked like it has been for the last 3 or 4 years. So that's good to see too.
And Bucky said, "Call me Bucky, dude. I'm not Bucko. I need to hear. My nickname is Bucky, dude. No more Bucko stuff." So let's call him Bucky. But you're right. In that way, it won't have to be 47 carries for Mo either. You know, we can spread it around. Good call on Potts, though. Yeah, that's nice to see. Like you said, in 5 games, he had like 550 yards. He was tearing it up, man. So that is good. All right, we'll be back next week. Enjoy the holiday, whatever you celebrate. Maybe you don't celebrate. That's cool, too. We'll be back next week. Peace.